Today's daf is daf lamed beis. We're up to the top of the page, 3 lines on the top of the page. The Mishnah, we're continuing working our way through the Mishnah. The Mishnah says v'cheres hadriyoni, that this clay vessel from King Hadrian is, as we'll see, you're not allowed to use it at all. Now, what exactly was so special about this particular vessel? We'll soon see. So, and it's also, you're not allowed to drink from it. You're not allowed to drink things in it and have a no and so on. What is it? So Gemara says, Amashmul, what is it? My Hadriani, Amashmul, Chedesh shel Hadrian's case. This was the clay part from Hadrian's case. What was so special about it? And so we'll see in a minute. Ki also Rabdimi, when Rabdimi, these are what they took with them when they went to war. You have to feed the soldiers, and you have to give them some way or another to expend their energy. So they took along these little barrels. These clay barrels, and therefore they were saturated with wine because they traveled with the wine all the time. We'll soon see a bit more. He said, they went and found virgin soil. Was never ever used before to plant anything, so it was very rich in soil, full of nutrients. Of the venota, they went ahead and they planted their vines. So the vines, they were really bountiful and they were very, very juicy. And then they go ahead and they put it in wine, the gulfi chivre, in white kalim, which gulfi means white clay kalim, but because it's the first time being used, white of him means clean, that was never used before. So they were very porous and they absorbed everything. It sucked out the wine. So so they used very, very strong grapes, full of juice, juice, and then they put it into these brand new kalim, so they absorbed a lot of the wine, and then but they don't have really room to take vats, barrels of wine with them. They're going to war. They would break them into small shards, and they all carried some of these shards, pieces. And when they carried these clay pieces, they were soaked in wine. Wherever they came and they were stationed and they had they paused, they would soak it into water, and that water would turn into strong wine, so they drank it. To the extent, our first getaway wine is the third time they soak those shards into water, their wine was still stronger than our wine by us. And that's why those vats are forbidden. If you put something inside it, it's forbidden because you can, if you put water, whatever it is, it will soak up the wine. It's also, drink it, you have on everything else. So now I'm going to ask a question. We'll ask a question and we'll wonder, okay, these things are asa bahano. Let's say these chedas from King Hadrian, they're asa bahano. Can you use it for something else? You want the keli, but not for its wine. You want it, for example, to support your bed. You need a fourth leg. So you want to put it there as a fourth leg. Can you, you're having hana from it, but not from the wine that's absorbed in it, but from the keli itself. How do we treat that? Can you support the karimita? Taisa has a whole chakira. Machlekes, if like chametz a pesa, for example, so didn't have hana, let's say kelim of chametz, you don't have hana, can you take these kelim and use it as support? In other words, when we say something's asa bahana, is it having hana from what the iser is? What about having hana, but not from the iser? But even though it's a right to be kiyuma, you want the pot to exist. If the pot falls apart, disintegrates, you can't use it for the purpose. Exactly. But it's not. So it's not the iser is not what you want. You want the pot, but let's say whatever it is, the jug. Exactly. Is that still also or not? So Machlek is Toshma coming here. So I'm going to ask this question right here. Coming here from this long brayse, we're going to try to come to a conclusion. First of all, before we get to the brayse, let's tell you. One of them says that it's forbidden because you're having, another one says it's permitted. And Hilchas command us. Allah says us. I mention this every time, but we have here constantly Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yechanan arguing. Even Rabbi Lazar was a Talmud of Rabbi Yechanan. He argued Rabbi Yechanan, and yet more kindness when Shlokish passed away, and Rabbi Yechanan was alone, and they said, okay, they sent Rabbi Lazar to learn with him. Rabbi Yechanan said, I need him to support me, and the Merspal should pass away. Rabbi Lazar knew how to argue. He consistently argued to Rabbi Yechanan. All that to do is tell Rabbi Lazar, he doesn't need your support. You have a Rachmanis in him. He lost his brother-in-law. He lost his Chavrusa, Rish Lakish. Argue with him like he did Amal. That's all I have to do. But what happened there? Don't know. Anyway, Meisrei. So now we'll ask a question. We'll ask a question on the one who said that it's us. Let me ask you a question. Sorry, the one who says it's mutter. It says harad durudin. Let's say these small little flasks, the haruk voyes, and shalev yochadim. This is something made out of leather. Things made out of leather are also very absorbent. Yayin sheyisrael konas ben. If the wine belonged to a guy and he stored his wine there, also b'shti, it's forbidden to drink, but a mutter b'hana. You're permitted to have hana. No. You're allowed to the wine that you put in there. You can sell. You cannot drink the wine you put in there because even though l'chayr wine is a mutter b'hana, because it's a step lower, it's only absorbed. It's not be'end the wine of the guy, so therefore it's mutter b'hana, but it's also b'shtia. Comes along Shimon ben Gudel lifnei b'nai Rabbi Gamliel. Came along Shimon Gudel for the son of Rabbi Gamliel. Al Gamliel testified regarding his father Gamliel. Sheshasim imenabaku. I saw your father drinking the wine from those pouches, from those called wineskins, okay, or canteens. Yeah, like a canteen, a pouch. They didn't believe him. Interesting. He said ages, and they didn't believe him. Now, what exactly is a machlekes here? If a guy puts wine there for long-term storage, then if the yid puts wine there, it'll absorb because the keli has absorbed in a lot of wine. If a guy puts wine in there for less than a night or less than 24 hours, the machlek is how long we say it has to be, Lena. If it's then it's just temporary, it doesn't bother us. You can puts his wine there, there's nothing to absorb. Here, these things here. You don't leave it there for a long time. It's the pouch you take with you when you travel or something, but it's continuously used. How do we use something that you continuously change the wine, but you use it all the time? And that's a machlekes. Is that considered like long term and therefore is absorbed? Is it like kovush in a way? We're talking about just cold wine you sat and studied, constantly changing, but it's constant. You're constantly drinking the wine. You put new wine. You stop at another tavern. So how do we view that? So the first opinion says, well, that's no different than if you leave it there for a long time, and if he puts his wine there, it'll absorb the wine from the kelim. And the other opinion says, no. The fact is that you never leave the wine there, one particular wine, for long enough, and therefore it's considered aray, and there's no problem, and that's why Rabbi Gamliel drank from it. So that's the machlekes l'chayda. That comes along, Shimon Gamliel and said, name Rabbi Shur ben Kapasai. So we have here in the Cholama base, we have here an interesting shaila. And the shaila is we're talking about that if a keli, fecheres or leather, belonged to a guy and he used it for his wine, so now the walls of the keli has absorbed wine, and then the yid puts his wine in there. There was a problem in the wine. You cannot drink the wine. You're allowed to have another because you don't see the wine that's absorbed, but you're not allowed to drink it. So we had a question: any keli of a guy that you're not allowed to use, right? It's also bachila, it's also bahana. We talked about the Hadrian's clay cheres because it had so much wine; it was steeped in wine. Can you have hana which is not directly benefiting from the wine? For example, you want to use this earthen keli as a support for your bed. So you want the keli to exist, you're right to be kiyumai, but you don't want it for the wine in it. You want it for the keli. Is that considered us? You're not allowed to, or you're allowed to. That's the Gemara's question. So we had a machlekes and the Gemara concluded, at least in parentheses, that it's us. Now we're asking a question of the one who's lenient. So we're up to 2 lines above the white lines, where we're talking about these. We had an aegis about the yid puts wine in these leather pouches that belong to a guy. Is that considered as if the guy had it for a long term and therefore the yid's wine you're not allowed to drink, even though you're allowed to know, or because it's not really long term because they continuously drank it up and they put new one in, even though it's all the time, it's considered short term and therefore yid's wine is mutter. And then he testified that Gamliel drank and nobody believed him. That's what it seems from this part of the Bryce. We'll see more later, maybe different. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, I remember Shimon ben Kapasai. Shimon said the name of Kapasai. Now, Lochayr Gamliel's son is Rab Shimon Gamliel. This is the same one who said he drank from before. Aser last man shtichen lechamay. You're not allowed to use this leather pouch and use it as a saddle for a donkey. Now, Lochayr. Why? Because asavana. But you're not benefiting from the wine that was absorbed in this pouch. You just want it for the thing itself. It's not clear. Clearly, you don't need the wine, and yet it's asa. So how can you say it's mutter? Says the Gemara. Let me ask you a question. If you're going to take the pshat literally, that you're going to learn you're not allowed to have any hana, even though it's outside of the benefit of the wine itself. Let me ask you a question. Well, the time according to you, a kankan, a regular barrel from a goy. The din is The whole world, we buy it. We don't put wine in there, but we use it for storage. Earthenware. We put water in there. We put other things into the storage. If you're not allowed to have any hana, even outside of the benefit of the wine, how come we buy it and put our sewing needles there? We put water in there. Yeah, exactly. Is that raya? That what? Isn't that a clear raya that you're allowed to have hana as long as it's outside of wine? So time So you want to say that what? That it's awesome. Sorry, we go back. The people who are makos saying that you hold that it's us. Tell me, how come people buy kankanim? Doesn't that prove that I'm right? Because Maisa Rav, put chazim ma'amad about everyone buys these things. Is it right that it's mutter? Kankanim chamalitzu lemizben. Maish no noidus and maish no kankanim. Why kankanim permitted and noidus are forbidden? That now I'll put a stich in the chamoy. Oh, my Rabbi comes along the Rabbi and he says, no. Really, it's mutter, just like kankani, my mutter. Really, that if you're having other hanos outside of the wine benefit, it's only mutter. You know why you're not allowed to do the saddle to the thing? Gzeira shema yivaka noida. Here, we're another gzeira altogether. Maybe your noid will break. The yitleno, the for them, you will take part of the saddle because the same material, and you'll fix up your other pouches that you have, your leather pouches, or your leather barrels, and therefore, or flasks. And that's why it's usher. But really, if you're having outside, it'll be mutter. Here's a specific zera. The material is useful for wine things, so you might use for that. Says the Gemara, fine. Well, the man, and the one who said that it's us, which is the halacha, that what? That it's us. So tell me, according to those days, it's us. So you don't have any hano. So why taka do we buy kankanim? Why you let it buy kankanim? You know why? Hasam lesser li'isur better. Normal kankan, okay, has a little bit of wine in there, but the wine is absorbed. It's not noticeable. It's very, very fainty when you put something in there. So therefore, it's negligible. We say that it's not. You're allowed to have hana outside of it because it's not really noticeable. The isa. In the case of Hadrian's, there's so much wine in there. The way we explained before, there's so much wine in there absorbed of the fresh grapes and the brand new first time used keli, so they absorb so much wine. It's as if the wine is present, and that's why you're not allowed to have any benefit from whatsoever because the wine is right there. If the wine is be'en, I don't care if the hana does not come from the wine, it's us. Where the wine is not be'en, then you can have other hanas for chalapachas. Anyway, so now we're focusing on the Bryce says when he told them they're going to drank from the wine that he put into these canteens, that nobody believed in. But I mean, ask a question. It says yayin, the wine habab beruvkai shalei wine that came again in these flasks. Also b'shtia, you're not allowed to drink it, but umuta bahana, you're allowed to have hana. Again, because it's not present, you'll have enough. Hey, Shimon ben Goida lifnei b'noi Gamliel. He testified Gamliel sheshasim imena ba'aku that he drank and the and this time he agreed. What's going on there? Before it says didn't believe his ages, and now they believe. My lahoyla gomer hasam kol sayatev b'noi moidla. You misunderstood, but it said lahoyla. It wasn't talking about the son. The son believed him. It said everybody else didn't believe him. So therefore, there's no contradiction between these two prices.
This is Rukvori, so that was something else.
It's the same idea. It's the same idea. It's a leather flask, or there's a what is the different? I don't even know the different noise in the place. One's are slightly bigger than the other one. That's all. It's the same idea. Same thing, same material, everything is the same. Who said the same person? And they didn't believe the first testimony, but they believe the second testimony. In other words, not because it's the second they believe it's more believable, but once they heard two different people saying the same thing, there must be some truth to it, and therefore they believed. If you found leather of an animal that is cut out like a circle, then you know it was used for Avodah Zarah because they had this terrible way of serving the Avodah Zarah that while the animals are alive, they were presented in front of the Avodah Zarah and they would cut out the skin and put the hand in and take the beating heart, the pulsating heart, and somehow or another bring it to the Avodah Zarah, and they thought this is a. When they had human sacrifices, maybe they did humans as well. I don't know. Tell them we learned. What exactly is oil of kosher korua keneged haleh the kodur? The piece of skin is right where the heart of the animal is, and it's round, it's circular. Kamina ruba, like a round window. Yes, all of koided dam. If there's a stain of blood on it, then you know it was done while the animal's alive. Also, but any of koided dam, if there's no specks of blood on it, that means it was done after the animal already, because the blood stops flowing once the animal dies. Then it's mutter. It wasn't done while the animal's alive, so it wasn't. And they don't worship an idol by doing that particular activity only while the animal is alive. When do we say that there's no blood on it? We assume that it was not used for Avodah Zarah. There was no salt. Ava mocha, they used to tan. By tanning, they used to salt the skin, right, to take away some of the particles or whatever, and so that. Also, it's forbidden. Why? Because the salt might have sucked out the blood, and we know salt sucks up blood. So therefore, we're still chayshish that maybe it was used for Avodah Zarah. Now, Shimon ben Gamliel in our Mishnah, it's questionable whether he's explaining or he's arguing. As also says, Shimon says it depends the cut around the skin. If it's circular, then you know that it was for Avodah Zarah. If it's crisscross, or if it's crisscross, or vertical or something, then there's like a long line, an elongated line. It's not Avodah Zarah. That's not the way to do it, because they wanted to pull the heart out. And the only way to pull the heart out is, you make a circle of things, so you can get the whole thing. So there's Bagam, there's Masha Keresh, also Moshe, but it's long mutter. Rabbi Yosef, who's Abaye's teacher, said the halacha in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, name of Shmuel, that the halacha of Shimon Gamliel. Halacha mekal please, if Rabbi Shimon, what a hold that even if it's a crisscross or if it's an elongated line, also it is usher. If you tell me the halacha of Shimon Gamliel, obviously somebody's arguing. Rabbi Yosef, who cares the argument? But give me the halacha. How many times we have the Gemara about who said it?
Finally gave him a shot back. Abai always makes it so.
Look at Abai didn't finish it. Abai said to him, "You're my teacher." So Gemara, you want me to memorize what you're teaching, and then Zemorte, but just a little song over here that you need some words to make a song. Every word in the Gemara has to be meduyet. Bottom line is, I guess it didn't answer him. That's that. And then we said, if meat, Yeshachten the meat, if a guy brings Yeshachten meat into the house of Avodah Zarah, as long as you get to him before he actually walked in and presented it to his idol, you can use it because it's not Avodah Zarah yet. What about the Shechita itself? We hold that the Shechita itself is not Avodah Zarah. You only do the Avodah Zarah right in front of the animal. So the Gemara said, not everyone agrees to that. Man Tana, this author who agrees to this, who it is, everyone but Rabbi Lazar. The like Rabbi Lazar. Why? Because if it follows Rabbi Lazar or Rabbi Eliezer, he holds stam machsheves oivegacham. He holds a stam machshava of a guy is Avodah Zarah, and therefore the meat itself he can't use anymore, because the meat itself was geschachten before they came to the church. They already shachted it for Avodah Zarah. How can you buy from him? So obviously, Amish knows it's not for Avodah Zarah until he actually presents it to the idol, and therefore you can. So the Gemara, but once they were in there and they're coming out, then you can no longer use the meat. Why? Because the meat is ready. If it's takrevis Avodah Zarah, it is also. Hana, you can't have any eating them. There's nothing to talk about them. Even Hana, you can't have any enough of it. Feed it to your dogs. You can't do anything. My time, why not? Once he's in the church with me, what do you think he did with it? He obviously presented the Avodah Zarah. You see in all these Asian places where they have these Buddhas over there, and they place the food on the Buddha before they eat it. So the Imam Mani, who holds that takrevis Avodah Zarah is also Hana. Rabbi Yehuda say the Tanya we learned. We had this a few days ago. Rabbi Yehuda says, we didn't have to say it, we had the whole Gemara. How you know? We said before, remember, Yehuda say that there 3 stages. And Yayin Nesach, it itself is Tameh. It is Tameh, like a Tameh Mace. How do you, even though it didn't touch any Tumah, it itself is Tameh Mace, and you can't have any Hana. And how do you know? We learn out, Zivche Mesim, it says in the same passage about drinking for Zivche Mesim, and Zivche Mesim, therefore, is a mess, and a mess is also about no. We learned from Sham from Egla Ruf, about Thomas Miriam, and then we learned Sham from Egla Ruf. Right, there's elongated Gzeda Shav. So Rabbi Yehuda Zayda says, "How do you takrev the Chamisha metame ba'oil?" And it says, "When you something about private information, man met metame ba'oil." And just like you learn Tumah, you also learn Isa Hanor. They all the Shem have a problem. Here it says, Rabbi Yehuda say as if the Chacham don't agree to Asabano. And a few days ago we had, when you were right after this mission, the Gemara says, "Minol and Haino Yain Nesach is Asabano," and we bring the same Zera Shav, and we don't bring up Yehuda Seder. Sounds like everyone agrees. And here's Rabbi Yehuda Seder. Number one. And number two, Yehuda Seder only talks about Tumah. So most of Shem learn the Chacham don't argue when it comes to Isra. They only argue on Tumah. You say that Takrevet Avodah Zarah is mamish Tumah's mess. And they say, no, it's not Tumah's mess. That far they didn't go. We only asked Hano. We didn't ask it's only Asr Hano. We learn after Shram from Mace, but not Tumah's oil and all those other didn't. And but because Yehudim says the one who openly said the Shabbat, so we quote Yehudim say that the Chamim don't argue on the Isra. Rabbeinu Tam says over here, a lot of Rabbeinu Tam in Avodah Zarah. Rabbeinu Tam says here, there's a difference what avoided it. There is an argument between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chacham. Chacham agree that Avodah Zarah is also, but only if you did the Avodas Pnim. Zibuach, he shechted it, Kitur, Menaseh, those particular activities. But if it's, let's say, if this Avodah Zarah has another activity outside of the four, remember we learned in all those activities. If he did outside of those four activities, he did another activity, Chacham hold that's not also Bahana. And Rabbi Yehuda Maseda says, no, any takrevis avodah gechavim. I don't care if it's the four main ones or whatever. If that's the avodah for that avodah zarah, it's also no. That's a separate thing altogether. Separate. One thing is also bahana. Is it mutter bahana or also bahana? Yayin nesach. So we say, so one opinion is Rishonim, the Chacham agree with say it's also bahana. They also agree with this whole exedus shava here. Because then the passing by yayin and you guys are going to drink wine and eat zvachim, so we compare yayin and zvachim. Then another passing says by something about poy by yechasham b'zichem meisim. So in other words, we already compare zevach to mes. So wine to zevach, then zevach to mes, and then the mes is said by Thomas Sham Miriam, and there it says sham, and by Egel Rufa it says sham, and we know Egel Rufa is osvano because it's kapara, and a kapara you now have any ano. So you work your way back all the way down to yayin nesach to osvano. That's not exclusively the opinion of Ibn Seder.
Exclusive to yayin nesach.
Yayin nesach, mahatreda. Then stam yaina mitzvah rabban.
But I'm saying in terms of Thomas Oil.
Tumah is a separate thing. How far do we take it when we say that we compare it to a mace? Do we take it completely like a mace, and therefore all the dinim of Tumah apply to mace player as well?
My wife last week went past the cafe, and on the how they put tables on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So next to one of those tables was a little getchke, one of the Eastern Oriental getchkes with an incense stick and a little takrevis of fruits, a little basket.
Yeah, that's what they do.
They gave to him. And so, but we're walking under the awning of the cafe, the shop. So I'm saying, if this is the Takrevis Avodah Zarah, is it Matama Tumah Soil? I'm not gonna. I mean, we're all talking about nowadays, but I'm just saying,
interesting. Yeah. But we have this concept that it says that chutzlah that they don't really serve Avodah Zarah, and there's a machlekes they don't serve Avodah Zarah at all. So it says minig avosei biyodein, what they're doing minig avosei biyodein, and you always have to wonder when the Gemara says all those things in the Rishonim, are they talking about in the Western world? That they, even though they maybe did Irish for those times, you know what I'm saying? And but is it meaning Abbasabi Dain? Another view is that it's not all the time, but these people they do.
There's over thousands.
Is that really Avodah Zarah, or is that what is it? It's just a symbol.
If they're giving carbonas to a getchka,
they actually bring carbonas to the getchka.
Not animal carbonas, they're bringing fruits.
Fruit, exactly. So is that really? I don't know.
They're offering it.
I don't know the Asian ruling so much. Okay, let's continue. Says about it further. It says in the Mishnah, now this is another thing. And here's the opposite. If somebody's coming from a long distance to go to a church, asurin losses v'losim, you're not doing any business with them. These are going because when they go to church, they'll thank their Lord, their thing. And it says in Pasuk Yishama Picha, you shouldn't be the one in helping them. They're going to thank them. Wow, we just did a good business deal with a Jewish person. But if they're leaving already, it's all right. Why is it all right they're leaving already? Because they're not going to go back to church to thank their gods. And there's another reason why you shouldn't be doing business the way, because maybe whatever you sell them, they're going to use for Avodah Zarah. But once they left, no problem. This is very interesting. The Gemara says it. On the way there, you're not allowed to. He'll give thanks to his getchke. Once he left, you're allowed to. You know why? It's over. He went home. So therefore, he's not going to go back to do more Avodah Zarah, nor is he going to go back to thank. He finished. And at home he'll go thank his God, but it's not really over the Avodah Zarah. The Avodah Zarah is definitely in front of the Avodah Zarah. But this is interesting. Yisrael ha'hoylech l'tarv. If a Yid is on the way to a church, so you can imagine where he's up to in life, that he's going now to a church to worship idols, is halicha mutter. You're allowed to do business. You know why? Because we are so confident that he is neshama will wake up and tell him, what are you doing? That Dilma Hadabay. Even though he's on the way, he's on this long trek going to the Avodah Zarah, he'll do tshuva at the last minute. The loyazal, and he won't go. But once he's going back, it's us. You know why? A Yid is worse than a Goy. If he already did it, he was there already. Even the Avik Bey, for a Yid to go during Avodah Zarah, he had to be very excited and passionate. So excited that he's prepared to leave behind his Yiddishkeit. So he's so attached. If something new happens, he'll run right back. He'll dash right back to give thanks. But by the time you learn Yisrael, it says clearly somewhere else that even Behalichat's Asr, said the Gemara, that's talking about a case where we know for sure it's going. He already did it before. He's already not Pekadis. Then you have to ask a question. If you're not Pekadis, so then he's no different than a Goy. So why, when he's going back, when he's going home, we say don't sell to him either. A Goy you're allowed to sell because he's not going back to Avodah Zarah. It means that a Yid, once Rahman Islan Ishmatzich, he's worse than a Goy. Then even afterwards, yeah. Yeah, but even on the way home, if something new happens, a Goy will go home. It's it's life. But he will go back to the Avodah Zarah to give. Yeah, whatever you call it. We learned. If a guy is going to a Yarid, to a marketplace to do business, even though it's a Yarid that sells Avodah Zarah, you're allowed to deal with him. Why? Because he's going to do business. But if a Yid is going to the marketplace to do business, and the way there, you're allowed to do business with him, because what's the problem? Once he's there, it's usher. You know why it's usher? Because he might have sold things for Avodah Zarah. He got money in lieu, and that money now is money in exchange of Avodah Zarah, and you're having hana for money of Avodah Zarah. Maish, I'm going to ask, Maish no Yisrael, the Bechazorah also, the Amri, we say, Avodah Kechavim Zabin, he sold Avodah Zarah, and he got money, and therefore you shouldn't be doing business with him because you're going to be having money from Avodah Zarah. No, Zabin, so what does he have with him? He has money from Avodah Zarah. No, the same thing with the guy. Name Avodah Kechavim Zabin, the guy sold Avodah Zarah, and the Me'av Yechav Mika Bahadi has money from Avodah Zarah. You want to tell you the difference? Would say he went there, but not to sell. Probably went there to sell shirts and other things. It's a marketplace. A Yerid, a fair. Also Avodah Zarah, but he probably the majority of things sold it were not Avodah Zarah. Chamra Zabin, he sold wine. So there, because he was not selling Avodah Zarah, the money that he got in return was not money of Avodah Zarah. So you can do business with him once he's on his return trip. You'd also like to handle, be peddlers, and sell clothing. When it says, no, Baba says, because he said, if all he wants to do is sell clothing, why didn't he stay in our fair over here, in the Jewish fair? What do you schlep all the way over there for? He slept over there because it's a place of Avodah Zarah. He wants to sell. He knows that he can make some money on the end of the year, Kratzmach, so he wants to make money there. I guess he maybe feels more comfortable at home there. I don't know. Good question. A good question. But the Rishayim ask is, the Gemara clearly later on will see that only by a Yid do we say that money that was used to buy Avodah Zarah, the Isa of Avodah Zarah transfers to the money. The Isa we transfer, but by a guy it doesn't transfer. So what's going on here? What's the most question? Look, you're right. The guy's money is from Avodah Zarah, but it's not the Isa of the Avodah Zarah didn't transfer to the money. So based on this, Taisa says a while ago that even by a guy, it depends if the money is specifically used for Avodah Zarah. If it clearly said that this money is for Avodah Zarah, then it's also even for a guy. It's only when the money stamp is used and you sold something which was usually Avodah Zarah, we say it's mutter. Faces of your base, but Aleph, he says over here. But if it's taka for Avodah Zarah, clearly you said this for Avodah Zarah, then the money even by guy becomes also. That's the only way to explain. Okay, tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.